Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the internets. It is I, Musashi X, and as I've stated on my Freedom Planet review, I said that I would make a series of Sonic the Hedgehog marathon reviews from the older games all the way to the current as we count down the days to the upcoming Sonic Mania. However, I will give a disclaimer right now that I won't be going through every single Sonic marathon, if only because, well, for one thing, May is coming up real soon. At least I hope the game is coming out in May, so there's no way I'll be able to complete every single marathon before the release of the game. That, along with the fact that I do have a really tight working schedule, so just bear with me on that one. Well, now that the disclaimer is out of the way, let's blast off at Sonic speed! It is time for the Sonic the Hedgehog Marathon 1, Sega Genesis and Sega CD.
During the late 80s, a certain red plumber was on top of the world when the NES was made popular, so Sega created the Master System to combat its competition, and its mascot at the time was a human in disco clothing named Alex Kidd, whom you may remember from my Sega Superstars Tennis review. Short and to the point, the mascot had mediocre success and the Master System couldn't even make a dent on its rival, so changes had to be made. It's 1991. And with the advent of the SNES and the Genesis, or Mega Drive if you're in Japan or Europe, Sega needed a new mascot. There had been some prototype designs of anthropomorphic animals until it came down to just an armadillo and a hedgehog, the latter of which was chosen and named him Sonic. The armadillo prototype would later be named Mighty, but we'll talk about him eventually in future reviews. So in 1991, Sonic the Hedgehog is born and would become a video game icon for years to come. Sonic and friends are everywhere, from toys to dolls, and even 5 animated TV shows, 3 from the 90s, Sonic X, and more recently Sonic Boom, as well as a feature-length anime movie.
Now, going off topic slightly, I have seen all of the 90s Sonic the Hedgehog shows back when I was a child. However, Sonic Underground is the least watched for me because I never saw that much of the show. It's mostly me watching the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog and the Sonic the Hedgehog Saturday morning cartoon a lot more. However, going back at it now as an adult, I just find these shows to be rather cheesy and stupid. And I just find the show Sonic X to be a much more superior show of the 90s shows. But if you like the 90s shows a lot better than Sonic X, then more power to you. Also, I haven't gone past episode 4 yet of Sonic Boom. I will eventually, if I feel like it. As far as the Sonic the Hedgehog anime movie goes, well, just take my advice. Just watch the original Japanese dubbing. Trust me, you'll thank me for it.
Before the game's release, Sega would advertise the heck out of him in commercials, especially in the Japanese market with that creepy clay animation of Sonic dancing. Either way, people were sold by it and then start playing the one that started it. Your goal is simple. As Sonic the Hedgehog, you make your way through 6 zones in South Island to stop Dr. Eggman from enslaving its inhabitants. Back then, he is referred to as Dr. Ivo Robotnik here in North America, but has always been called Dr. Eggman in Japan. The latter name would be later used in Sonic Adventure and beyond, and I'll refer to him as such, since Robotnik sounds rather dull, but we'll hear that name again in the future. Each zone has 3 acts and the final match with Dr. Eggman, giving you 19 stages to go through. Each level will have you facing obstacles ranging from spikes, environmental hazards like lava or crushers, or badniks, robots created by Dr. Eggman in an attempt to off Sonic. Scattered throughout the game are springs of different colors that would lead Sonic to either the correct pathway or an area that may be deadly. And there's also rings and monitors to collect. Rings are basically your HP in the game, because having no rings at all can equal death, and as long as Sonic holds at least 1 ring, he can take as much damage as Eggman and his stooges can throw at him. And by collecting 100 rings, he gains an extra life. Item monitors can range from gaining 10 rings, a barrier which serves as extra HP, speed shoes that increases his running speed, and invincibility stars that would make Sonic deadly against enemy contact for a short time. The gameplay is more than just a standard jump on enemies platformer, as the game has emphasis on speed. By having good running distances, and by holding down on the D-pad on downhill slopes, it brings a great feeling of rushing through stages while simultaneously plow through enemies while rolling. The Act 3 stages will have Sonic in matches against Dr. Eggman, but his attack patterns made him so predictable and pathetic, except for the 4th zone, which I'll be getting into soon. For an early Genesis game, the nice use of parallax scrolling and color made the game so rich and vibrant in depth. Sonic will go through 6 zones, beginning with Green Hill Zone, your beginner stage that helps you get used to the mechanics of the game, as well as a big area to explore, run fast, and plenty of loops and tunnels to speed through. This is followed up by Marble Zone, where time needs to be taken in order to avoid lava or getting crushed to death. Next up is Spring Yard Zone, where it's somewhat a mix of the first 2 zones, in terms of strategic assessment. And what I mean by strategic assessment, there are some parts where you can either go fast, while also doing some careful platforming. But then there's Labyrinth Zone, where you have to find air pockets for big bubbles to catch from time to time, as Sonic can't swim and can drown at any time. The pace of this stage goes way slower than Marble Zone. Next is Starlight Zone, which has Sonic back to its speedy gameplay, with not much threats in the zone, except invincible walking bombs that you have to avoid before they explode. And finally, Scrap Brain Zone. Eggman's base of operations where he'll throw everything he's got to stop you. Bombs, crushers, flamethrowers, and disappearing platforms. You name it, he's got 'em. Heck, Act 3 is once again Labyrinth Zone, and it can go on forever unless you find that one shortcut to get it over with. It's worth noting that you do have a time limit, and when it reaches 10, it's an automatic loss of life. In the final 4th act of Scrap Brain, you must attack Eggman carefully without getting crushed or shocked, as there's no rings to save you. Trial and error is all I can tell you. If you have more than 50 rings as you reach the goalpost, a giant ring will appear for you to enter. You'll be taken to a special stage where you navigate a rotating maze, collect rings, which getting 50 will play a jingle indicating that you get an extra continue, and get mystical jewels known as Chaos Emeralds, which getting all 6 of them will net you the better ending. The music presentation is great and still holds up to this day. Even non-Sonic fans will always remember both the intro music and theme of Green Hill Zone, but nonetheless, the soundtrack still holds up as one of the greatest. Those that have bought the Sega Genesis for the very first time upon its release, Sonic the Hedgehog is everyone's #1 reason to get the console. Honestly, this isn't my very first Sonic game I've ever owned, and I had to borrow it from my cousins back in the day and played the heck out of it. Everyone who would play this game, including myself, would invest so much time that the game itself would make its place in history as one of the greatest games in the world to own and still play to this day. It would also make Sonic himself, along with Eggman and other characters from subsequent games in the series, to be very memorable. My final rating for the game is a 9 out of 10, and I know what you're thinking. Yes, I did give Freedom Planet a perfect score, but you gotta understand that Freedom Planet is a game for the current generation of gaming, and it uses gameplay based off of Sonic the Hedgehog and other games on the Sega Genesis. Sonic the Hedgehog is made in 1991, and it's just starting off, and later games in the series will improve upon its existing formula. Sonic the Hedgehog is such a killer app for the system, it sold millions and millions of copies that it became one of the best-selling Sonic series titles, and it actually appears in multiple ports all over the place. Doesn't matter what console you're using, it doesn't matter if you're playing with the PS2 or the Xbox, no matter what console you're playing, Sonic the Hedgehog 1 is everywhere. So in the next review, we'll be taking a look at its sequel, which actually improved more than the first. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is coming your way soon. So until then, this has been Musashi X, and I bid you all farewell and take care.